This is Kaleidoscope on 91.3 WYSO. I'm Juliet Fromholt. I'm your host for the evening, and I am very happy to welcome our guests into the studio. They are with Concept Media, a group of local filmmakers. They made their first movie earlier this year. They're working on new stuff, and I'm very excited to have them tell us all about it. I want to welcome Shawn Burkett and Ayse Howard. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very glad to have you both here. Why don't we start off? Shawn, you've been here as a musician before.
Yes.
And you are also a filmmaker. Tell me about how you got your start in film.
Oh, wow. I had a child, and that kind of limited me on touring. So I was like, I need some other creative outlet. And my good friend Ryan Stacy, who is actually my partner in Concept Media, me and him used to set up at a Waffle House and smoke cigarettes and drink coffee and talk about, it'd be so great to make a movie.
I remember those days.
I mean, that was like, 10 years ago probably. We were in high school. So he came to me with this idea, and we talked about it, and he ended up rewriting a little bit, and we just made a movie. Watched a ton of YouTube channels on how to make your own this or that, and had at it.
So this was just like a, hey, we've been talking about this for years, let's do it kind of a thing.
Yep.
That's great. That's very cool. Now, you are a horror filmmaker, and a lot of people say that horror is the easiest genre to get your start in as a filmmaker, but to me, with all the special effects, I kind of wonder about that. When you were thinking way back when, talking about film ideas, was it always horror that called to you, or were you just thinking about making anything and everything?
I mean, it was horror back then just because I'm an avid horror fanatic. But, I mean, the reason we're starting out doing horror as a company is mainly because there are several larger conventions that, especially Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Pennsylvania, they're all kind of close to home. It's cost effective for us to go to those. And pretty much it's, for us to do any other type of film, obviously we're going to have a much bigger budget and be able to cast actual stars that people know of to make profit.
I see how it is.
Sure. So it's definitely easier to shop a horror film around with less resources as far as marketing and all that stuff goes. Well, tell me about the first film that you guys made that was released earlier this year.
The first film we made was called Midsummer Nightmares. We started pre-production on it last January. We finished the film. Well, we filmed and finished the film in a total of 14 days in June.
Wow.
From there, we spent from June until actually October 1st editing, trying out different programs, this, that, and the other, and we had a huge hailstorm last June. That ended up killing one of our computers, so that film, all the audio on it is just the little microphone on the camera.
Oh, man.
Which, I fell to my knees and cried my eyes out that day.
I don't blame you. I would do the exact same thing. As far as, having 2011 be sort of your first year as a filmmaker, I'm sure that you learned a lot. And going into next year, there are a lot of things that, you're going to do differently or that you're going to expand or change in your process. What for you was one of the biggest things you learned, whether it was, about the craft or just about the process of making a film?
You can never have enough help. If it's free help, take it. I mean, Ayse...
I did pretty much all my makeup, though.
Yeah, she done most of her makeup except for her, special effects. We have a girl, Liz, cupcake that does all the makeup for Concept Media as far as like special effects, and even on Midsummer Nightmare, she done a lot of hair and makeup. Which actually I just bought her like a huge makeup case, all kinds of palettes, and I became a girl for a couple days and just went shopping after Christmas.
I could totally see you doing that.
It's because I've done it.
Not only that,
but it's any help, any input that somebody directs towards you, whether you think it's negative or not, take it into consideration. You never know. They may have a point. I mean, I've worked with a couple people who were just not necessarily arrogant, but, you know, if they write something, they have something in mind of what they want. But they also got to think of, if the money's not there to accomplish that, you got to have a backup strategy.
As a musician who, you know, played at gigs and, you know, performed live and things like that, there's a certain element of being on your toes for things like that. Do you think that that helped you be on your toes, especially in regard to things where you've got sort of a set vision that you'd like to accomplish, but the money's not there, so you have to improvise and figure out how to make the best something out of nothing?
Oh, yeah. I mean, my whole life is pretty much me improvising to an extent, so...
everything.
Yeah.
Well, Ayse, tell me how you got involved with all of this. Have you been acting long, or was this your first acting experience?
My first one. We've actually known each other since I moved out to Brookville, Ohio, and we've done a couple photo shoots together, and then the lead actress of this actually backed out, and he called me up. He pretty much asked me, he's like, "Hey, you want to be in this film?" I was like, "All right, sure, I'll give it a shot. See what happens."
Was that intimidating, sort of just diving headfirst into a project, or?
The first day was extremely nerve-wracking, but I don't know. Like I said, I've known him for so long that it's so easy to work with him. And he's a laid-back guy, so it's easy to just say action, get to work, but at the same time, as soon as he says cut, it's goofing around and whatnot.
So it makes for a nice contrast.
Yes, very easy to work with him, so.
Well, tell me about what you guys are working on now.
You want to take this, or you want me to take this?
We can take it together.
The film that me and Ayse are currently working on is going to be a Concept Media release. It's called The Sleeping Soul. Every time I try to define it, I always mess up, so I'll let you define it.
Well, pretty much it's a story about this woman who lost everything in a car wreck, and it goes to about a year after everything happened. She's finally getting it together, and basically she just ends up losing it through a series of events. And saying anything else, honestly, just will give away too much. So
is this another horror film?
I wouldn't say horror. Man, so many people ask me, like, what's this movie about? I like the pictures for it. I was like, well, of course you do. It's a half-naked woman on, you know. But anyways, as Ayse hits me.
What are you talking about?
I always liked the earlier, Blair Witch, Paranormal Activity even.
The video camera movies.
Yeah, it's like first person.
Okay, kind of found footage, first person shaky camera kind of thing.
Yeah, I always wanted to take a real movie, scripted everything, and add that into it. Okay. So that's what I'm attempting to do. It has some paranormal-ish vibes to it.
It's unique.
So definitely, it sounds like it's definitely more, if there are horror elements, it's definitely more psychological than like a straight up slasher.
Yeah, I mean I'm not gonna lie, there's blood and a little bit of gore in it, but I can't really say any more than that.
That's fair. Yeah, we don't want to give it away. When are you shooting to release that one?
Oh, God.
At the moment, my scheduled date is the premiere is going to be March 2nd.
I don't know.
I
You
believe
haven't told me.
March 2nd.
Okay.
We'll go with that.
Okay. And are you guys basically going straight to DVD? Or I know for Midsummer Nightmare you did do a theatrical premiere. Are you going to try to do another area theatrical premiere for this one?
Yes. It's definitely, I've got, I think, a total of 10 theaters that have agreed to play it at the moment. And before I put it on DVD, because once again, you kind of, I don't want to say I've learned from my mistakes, but, you know, I'm a stay-at-home dad, so shelling out like $1,400 to have DVDs made, it's kind of a lot. So yeah, I'm going to take it and try to build up money to have it put on DVD by showings.
So, you know, expanding your marketing essentially is what you're doing. That's great. That's great. And as far as the conventions go, I know they do screenings too. Are you going to try to shoot for getting it screened at some of these conventions that you've been taking your films to?
I've looked into several. It's just like some of them, like for some reason, the ones in Kentucky require that it's rated by the MPAA.
Oh, wow.
And I personally don't feel I need to spend like $800 to get that little card at the beginning of my film.
Which is probably one of those things that people who don't make films, you know, it would be easy to assume that doesn't cost anything. You know, that's just something that kind of magically happens when you make a movie.
Yeah. And well, okay, say you want an R rating and they review your film and, you know, pretty much they tell you what you got to cut out to make it an R rating. And for all you know, that could, depending on the type of movie, that could cut out half the movie.
Right, yeah.
So I'm fine with unrated.
And working independently, you have the luxury of doing that.
Yes.
Well, what else is on the horizon for Concept Media in 2012?
We are currently casting for Midsummer Nightmares 2.
Nice.
That's actually going to be a very exciting and exhausting shoot. We have a couple people casted for it already. Kitsy Duncan, she's a horror host. She's going to be in the film, as well as we have returning cast members from the first one. I loathe thinking about that film at the moment, just because it's like, okay, we just wrapped up Midsummer Nightmares. I'm into this one, then we're gonna go right into that one. I'm like, okay, just suck it up. Let's do this.
You can think about that one after Sleeping Soul is done.
Yeah.
Get one off the docket. And then, do you think that for the rest of the year you'll spend promoting those two films, or are you even remotely thinking about starting anything else at this point?
I know tentatively we are scheduled to shoot Midsummer Nightmares in March. No, that's wrong. May and June of this year. Well, not of this year, of 2012.
Almost this year.
Yeah, so
Something along those lines.
I'll have a little bit of downtime in between, well, March and, yeah, not a lot though.
Yeah.
Plus, I have, me and my wife are expecting our second child.
Congratulations.
In August, most likely. So 2012 is going to just be a grand old time.
2 films and a baby. That's a lot.
I kind of jinxed him on the baby part.
Well, no, when we were filming The Sleeping Soul, another cast member, literally 2 days before I found out that we were going to have another kid, him and his wife found out that they were with child.
Something about this movie.
And it's like,
Oh no, don't even look at me.
if she becomes pregnant,
No, won't happen.
either this film is cursed or it's just going to be amazing. And I'm willing to take that chance.
There's no middle ground on that one.
Yeah.
It's one end or the other. The extreme.
Well, it can be amazing without the baby on my part. So
Well, tell me, both of you, about Who are some of the folks that you look to, Shawn, in your filmmaking and Ayse in your acting? Any particular people in the horror genre or across the board?
Tag, you go first.
Oh, wow. I mean, I have noticed since we started filming this movie, I've paid a lot more attention to the acting in movies that I've been watching currently, and I can't even say that there'd really be an influence. I pick everything apart too much. So all the new movies I've been watching, I'm just like, oh, well, she could have done that a lot more better by doing this, or... So it's kind of tough. I mean, I know when I was really young, and Shawn's going to crack up at this, but my idol was Angelina Jolie in the movies. I have to say it. Look at his face. But
wow.
I did a book report on her and everything. It was a big deal.
Really?
Yeah. And
Okay.
ever since then, I guess, especially when Insidious came out, it gave me a huge appreciation for her, and that's Rose Byrne. And she was featured in my favorite film, and that's where I really got into her. Then notice she's also been in all these other movies that I absolutely love. So then Insidious came out, and the horror part of her, I was just like, wow, she's amazing. So.
And what about you, Shawn? Are there certain directors that you look to for influence, or that made you want to make horror films? Or
I mean, I could throw some out there, but I don't know. I like John Carpenter for different reasons, and it's funny because Ryan, my partner, whenever we're on set, he calls me John Scorsese because I have glasses that I guess remind him of Martin Scorsese, and then I'm constantly smoking on set, which reminds him of John Carpenter. I really like what John Carpenter did. A lot of people don't know this, but the Halloween score to that whole film made in 3 days.
That's impressive. Yeah, that's super impressive.
It was, I don't want to say it was repetitive. It fit.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I don't want to gloat, but Midsummer Nightmares was done in 2. But I took the John Carpenter approach to it. It's very simple. It's repetitive. Some things change, some things don't.
Is that scoring your own film? That's not something that all directors choose to do. Was that something that you always wanted to do from the start, or you just decided to do out of necessity?
Pretty much we were poor, and I had the equipment to do it, so I was like, rather than pay this guy $200 to $300 and not get what we want, plus we were so limited on time. We finished editing the film 2 days before we had to send it out to be made on DVD, so yeah, I just said, I can take this and kind of loop it.
Uh-huh.
But we're going to do this drinking game to the film. There's this sound that goes...
And every time you hear it, you take a drink.
So every time that happens, it does it twice per time. So it's you got to take 2 drinks. And seriously, I put that in there probably 50 times.
Oh, wow.
So you got 100 drinks to the film. Enjoy.
Well, why don't we take a quick break, and we'll come back and talk more with Shawn and Ayse from Concept Media. It's coming up next on Kaleidoscope on 91.3 WYSO. This is Kaleidoscope on 91.3 WYSO. I'm Juliet Fromholt, and I am joined once again by Shawn Burkett and Ayse Howard. They are from Concept Media, local filmmaking right here in the house. And tell me about what the response has been locally to what you're doing so far. Have you created a lot of buzz locally, or are you still looking to clue people in on what you're doing?
A bit of both. I mean, DVD sales are up. As far as our local hometown of Brookville, Ohio, personally, they just don't seem to take any interest, which annoys me because the high school has this board that's their Hall of Fame or whatever to people who have accomplished things. And half of them haven't really accomplished anything except graduating high school. And for some reason, when they put that board up, I set it as one of my goals to be on it. And now they're just irritating me.
Because you're not on it yet.
Because they're not giving me, like, any recognition. I'm not saying I deserve to be on that board, but it's like the local paper, like, wouldn't even let us pay to advertise in it.
Wow.
Well, I mean, look at the town and then look at your movies.
Well, but it's not like we had... It was a picture of a mask and a knife.
Yeah.
Okay, our local hometown will have deers gutted like the biggest buck in town. So I don't see the problem.
It's a very country town.
Can that be a challenge as you know, a guy from a small town and a film company based in a small town? Can that carry a kind of stigma of being, you know, of making right now exclusively horror films in a very small community?
I don't really know. Like, but it's weird because everybody in the town that either knows myself or Ryan or somebody that's either been on one of the film's casts, they're all coming out of the woodwork with like these ideas for movies. And he's like, I've got a script. And one person, I was like, let me see the script. He's like, well, I haven't written it down. I was like, well, I kind of need to like physically see something, you know, type it out, email it to me, whatever you want to do. I still haven't received that script.
Well, so that leads me to a good question. Do you, right now you're making essentially horror films, Sleeping Soul being maybe a quasi horror film, as we've been discussing. Do you see that being Concept Media's thing, or do you guys want to expand into comedy or drama or whatever?
I have a way of looking at things. Just because I was a musician for like 12 years of my life, touring, just music's what I know, so this is kind of new. So I've kind of taken the concept of like a record label and based it to Concept Media. It's kind of like right now we're just doing death metal. But it's like every record label wants to be like Capitol Records and cover all the genres. Our film company, eventually we would love to do that. But there's certain steps you have to take to do that. Because honestly, other than horror, any other genre of film, the budget is going to double, triple, and just keep getting higher and higher. So, we hope to.
You could do drama really well.
Nobody likes drama films. No.
Yeah, but you could do them really well. We know how you are.
I mean, personally, I like thinker movies, as I call them. Like, honestly, I couldn't name one to save my life at the moment, but I like thinker movies. And that's what The Sleeping Soul is.
It's definitely a thinker.
It's a riddle.
You're not...
As soon as you think that you know what's going on, I'm sorry.
You're okay.
It completely changes, and you were wrong.
Yeah.
So...
Well, if people want to keep tabs on the progress of the film and get a copy of it when it's out or find out screening information when that's available, where can they go online?
Have at it, kid.
We have a Twitter page, which is at The Sleeping Soul. We have a Facebook page, which I think is just / The Sleeping Soul.
/ Facebook, whatever.
We also have an official website, which is thesleepingsoul.com. So it's pretty easy to find. Just type in The Sleeping Soul, and it's right there.
And we're still seeking additional funding for The Sleeping Soul, as well as we've started a Indiegogo account for Midsummer Nightmares 2. ConceptMediaFilms.com. You can find out information about all our films, all our funding, casting, pretty much anything. If you have any questions, there's submission boxes.
But donate to The Sleeping Soul first.
but we are at your beck and call.
Fantastic. Well, we'll look forward to both of those films in 2012. Shawn, Ayse, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Very glad to have you. Check them out, Concept Media, and their upcoming film, The Sleeping Soul. We'll get links up on our Facebook page. We're at facebook.com/Kaleidoscope.